Okay, I am basically making this video to explain to the best of my knowledge and the knowledge that God has given me to explain why the Trinity is real. And even though it doesn't say the word Trinity in the Bible, it is 100% factual and real. Now, there's many cases where something hasn't been physically said, but it's still true. Like, for example, Jesus didn't say the words, he claimed to be God, but he never said the words, I am God, worship me, or anything like that. But in the Bible it said, before Abraham was born, I am. God, Jesus clearly claiming to be God. Second one, if you see me, you have already seen the Father. Jesus again is claiming to be God. So then why do people still not believe that Jesus is God? Well, mainly because Jesus is part of the Trinity, and the Trinity doesn't make any sense to most people. Even though, and before I want to say anything, you need to understand that faith goes way higher than any reason. Us humans, we have such limited knowledge compared to God. We can't even grasp the knowledge and the wisdom of God. Just because we can't actually fabricate and fathom the actual thoughts of how three beings can be one God doesn't make it false. And God, even though it doesn't state in the Bible the word, not even the word Trinity, God still describes the Trinity. In Genesis chapter 1, the first chapter of the Bible, it states the Trinity and it states that the Trinity are one. First, I'm going to show you where it states the Trinity. If you can go to Genesis chapter 1, if you have a Bible on you or whatever, it says in verse 26 and then 27. 26 describes, it says, Then God said, Let us, plural, not let me, let us make man in our own image, according to our likeliness. That is clearly saying that there is more than one being to God. God said this, not anybody. God said this. God said, let us. So God is referring to him that there is more than one being to him. Then how do we, okay, there's more than one being. How do we know that being is one? If we go to verse 27, it said, So God created man in his own image. So why does God transition from saying us and our to going from plural, going to his, and going to he created him in his own image, he created them male and female? Why does God go from that contrast between plural and then a singular form? God is trying to tell us that even though there's more than one being to him, those one being are one and can be referred to as him or he. That is referring to how there's not three gods that make up one God. There's three persons that make up one God. And that is just one God. That is a singular God that has three persons in him. And if you actually think about this, you may say, okay, so the Bible does actually say there's a Trinity. But then why would God have a Trinity? It doesn't make sense. Why would God need to have more than one of his beings and more than one of himself? Think of it. In the beginning of time, the Word was God. The Word was with God and the Word was God. Now, if you think of who God really is, many people get this wrong because they think God is just this peaceful person who is just all loving. My friends and family, that is the most incorrect description you could ever give of God. God is not all loving. God is love itself in the essence of love. God is the foundation and love itself. God is where love comes from. He isn't just loving. That is an understatement of God. God is the essence of love. So if we say, okay, God is the essence of love, He is where love comes from. He can't just be all loving because He is love. He can obviously be all loving, but it doesn't just stop there. God is love Himself. So if you think of in the beginning, where there was no humans, was humans in the beginning? No. In the beginning, the Word was God and the Word was with God. Okay? And if God is love itself, how can God express that love if there's no other beings but God? How can I express my love when there's nobody to express it to? Does that make any sense? Who is there to express the love to? The three persons that make up God. They express love to each other, and that's the essence of love. Expression to one another. The essence of love is God. How can God just express love to himself? That's called being like a narcissist. God has three persons who express love amongst themselves, and because of that, God is the essence of love itself. So when you say that God is only the Father, it makes no sense at all. If you go back into the beginning of time and say God is love, okay, who's there to love? if it's in the beginning. Exactly, it doesn't make any sense. It makes more sense to think that there's a Trinity than to think there's not a Trinity. Because if you beg the question that there's not a Trinity, then there's no God. There's no God. God is three beings in one. If you remove any one of those, there's nothing. That is not God. And another reason why it deliberately points to why God is three beings in one, because if you look at even angels, if you look at the cherubs, the seraphs, if you say, okay, there's one cherub, there's one seraph, that is a singular. But if you say there are many cherubs, that's called the cherubim. If you say there are many seraphs, that's called the seraphim. The word I am indicates a plural. And when the Hebrews were learning about God, and another word for God was Elohim, they knew that a plural for cherub would be cherubim, seraph would be seraphim. Say Elohim. The I am at the H, Elohim spelled Elohim. The I am, when the Hebrews read this, they were like, oh, this is a plural. So God must obviously be more than one person. Even God's name, Elohim, hints and tells you that there's more than one being to God. As well as, let me go back to Genesis 1 if you still are not understanding the Trinity. Here. If it says here, then God said, let us make man in our own image. Now, if you think of us, are we only a body? We are not only a body. We have a body, a soul, and a spirit. And if we are made in God's image, if God is three beings, will he make us in one being? No. If God made us in his own image, we will be made in three beings like he is. And what is our three beings? We have a flesh, we have a spirit, and we have a soul. Oh, well, would you look at that? Three beings made in the exact same image as how God is three beings. So you cannot tell me that God is not love itself without being three beings. You cannot say that. It's impossible. It's like saying I love my wife even though I don't even know her. It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. And that's why, even though if you do not understand the Trinity, and this is probably not 100% of the Trinity explained, but faith goes way higher than any reason. Always hold on to that. God will even put you through seasons where he will make you contradict if he is real or not, to test your faith, to see if you really love him or if you're following what other people say. That's why faith will always go higher than reason, and you must remember that. So that was just basically my insights on, not just my insight, but God gave me the knowledge on how to actually interpret it, how he is God and he is three beings in one. And I hope this actually helped you to understand how the Trinity works. And let me just leave you off on one more example if you don't fully understand. Think of it as an apple. An apple has a skin, the meat, and the core. All of it represents the apple. You can take out the core, you can take out the skin, you can be left with the meat. But if you put it all back together, the skin, the flesh, and the core all make up one apple. Even though they are three separate parts, beings of the apple, they all make up one apple. Same with God. They are three separate persons, but they make up one God. I hope this message encouraged you to actually think more of why the Trinity is the most plausible and the factual answer that God is three in one. And I hope it make a little bit more sense to you, because the Trinity, as I said, it is very confusing. But remember, faith does go higher than reason. So just ask God, because I was asking him, I was like, who? It doesn't actually seem plausible that the Trinity is real. God, please reveal to me how you can be a God in three in one. And lo and behold, God answered my prayers, and he actually helped me realize how God and all these evidence point to how he is a three in one God. And that is honestly so beautiful and amazing. So I hope this message helped move you. Please share it if you think somebody else needs to hear it. And I love you. God loves you more.